Well, hello, and welcome to the Radio Days Europe Christmas party. Here we all are, hanging out virtually this Christmas. It's great to have you with us, and I hope that you're nice and festive. You have your Christmas tree up, you're donning your Christmas jumper. Maybe, because technically this is a Christmas party, maybe having some mulled wine. My name is Colin Flynn, by the way, and I'm speaking to you from Rome in Italy. So I have some beautiful Italian wine here, but I'm very tempted, but my bosses are watching this, so I really can't. Instead, I have a sensible, hot, steaming cup of tea, which I would enjoy. But hey, as they say, whatever you're having yourself. So sit back, relax. We've got a great show, a great program for you over the next while. And, you know, why we decided to have this Christmas lunch at Radio Days Europe is because, you know, it has been such an incredibly surreal, such an incredibly difficult year for everybody. And for those of us who work in the radio and the audio and the podcasting industry, it was such a challenging prospect to try and produce the same programs we were producing, to try and do the interviews we were doing, but in a different way. Interviewing people remotely, working from home, operating studios remotely. It was a really big challenge. And the funny thing was that listeners all across Europe, all over the world, were relying on broadcasters and media content providers now more than ever. They were relying on you to be informed, to be educated, to be kept up to date, and as well to be entertained. That comforting voice still being there every day when everything else in the world seemed to be going astray. So what we wanted to do at Radio Days Europe was to give you a little break. I know that many of us are working throughout Christmas, but just an hour or so to sit back, relax, and hear from some of the leading experts, the industry leaders in the radio and broadcasting industry across Europe, some of the best talent and some friends of Radio Days Europe. We're going to hear from them all over the next while. But first, to kick off proceedings, we're going to talk to my boss I just mentioned, who I can't drink this wine in front of, but you can be sure I'll be drinking it during the clips. Can we take that out or no? Okay. It's Peter Nigel. Peter is the general manager of Radio Days Europe. Peter, it's over to you.
Hello, my name is Peter Neal, and I'm the General Manager of Radio Days Europe. Welcome to Radio Days Europe Christmas lunch here online. And first of all, a Merry Christmas to everyone from all of us here at Radio Days. We hope you will have a wonderful Christmas. It's been a difficult year for all of us, for our industry, our colleagues, our families, and our loved ones. And it seems we have a while to go yet before we are anywhere near normal again. So when the corona pandemic hit us back in March 2020, we all hoped it would be over by now, by the 14th. But no, we had to postpone again to 2021, where we hope we will all be able to meet again in person. But in the meantime, many of you, our partners and delegates, you've all come back to us, support and encouragement, thank you, and advice on how we can all stay connected in this difficult time until we can meet again properly. So therefore, we had our podcast day online in October, and we will have our Radio Days Asia in 21 in March. Also, we thought we would do something special for today. So we reached out to all you, our partners in the countries all over Europe. We asked for a video from you on what you've learned in 2020. So with your support, we have been able to put this Christmas lunch online together. We are very grateful for all your support, for the strength in our community, the will to keep the connections alive across Europe, the willingness to help each other. Today, we will hear from leaders, producers, DJs, podcasters, and hosts from all over Europe. They have a story to tell, they have advice to give, and best practices and experiences to share. Thank you so much again to all our partners, our sponsors, and our speakers for making this event possible. And I will now hand over to the first speaker. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you in 2021.
Hello, I'm Paul Keenan, President of Bauer Media Audio. We're Europe's leading commercial radio broadcaster, delighting more than 50 million listeners each week across 7 countries. You join me on a wonderfully cold and grey December morning in London's Soho, outside of One Golden Square, our COVID-secure UK broadcasting HQ and home to the world-famous radio brands Kiss, Magic, Absolute Radio, Planet Rock and Scala. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you today. Let's go in and I'll show you around. Well, I think 2020 was a year of incredible learning. I'm going to introduce you now to some people from Bauer, all socially distanced of course, who will share their learnings with you. For my part, I have learnt so much and still am. I've learnt how resilient, resourceful and agile our people and business can be, moving the whole operation from more than 2,000 people across 7 countries, from working from the office to broadcasting, selling and marketing from home. I've learnt just how strong our relationships with our advertisers are. From the shock of the world shutting down in March and April, we experienced a rapid bounce back, with advertisers valuing radio's flexibility, its creativity, and its simple effectiveness. I've learnt just how phenomenally deep our relationships with our listeners are, with radio taking them to the epicenter of the crisis and to a world beyond the virus. Here, I think, we have really excelled. And I have learnt some new insights into what really matters. So let's hear now from some others across the Bauer Media Audio world.
I think the radio industry has had an amazing year because I think it's really woken us up to what is important about radio, what our unique selling point is in the world.
Yeah.
That relationship with our audience through our presenters, that communication, that sense of community, that sense of connection to the outside world.
And what about things like music discovery and what role radio plays there in our listeners' lives?
Well, radio I think has a fundamental role with music and introducing you to your next favourite band. You know, Alexa, if you asked Alexa for your next favourite band, she'd be stumped. She wouldn't be able to tell you what that is. But if you listen to the radio and you listen to your favourite radio station, that presenter with their enthusiasm and energy and passion for a new band is going to be quite infectious, and you're going to go, okay, I'll check them out. And I think that's why the music industry are really keen that the radio industry really does move forward with creativity and ambition in the next few years. But it's the ones that can adapt to change, and I think that's what we've done brilliantly at Bauer this year.
The adaptive medium, radio.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ben. So how are you getting on?
Good.
Strange times?
It is, isn't it? I mean, but to us, it's kind of no different. We launched the breakfast show during the middle of the pandemic.
We don't know any different.
Exactly. So
What?
yeah, everyone keeps saying to us, "What was it like launching a show like this?" And it has been. I think it has been quite a unique challenge because we kind of had to hit the ground running in that aspect. Right. I think it's another case of as well where people are at home more, so much more time, but now it's kind of a case of there's so many options for people to use to keep themselves entertained. I think this is something KISS has done really well as well. That at the moment, I don't think people just want that. I think people are craving normality, and it's been really hard to do something like that. Like, there would have been so many things that we would have done with KISS as the new breakfast show host, whether it be, you know, History Festival or Haunted House Party, and what KISS have done in such an amazing way is, you know, so many people try to go down the virtual route, but I think we've done it in a way where there has been a genuine connection. We've acknowledged that, look, this is weird. We're not trying to make it like, oh, you're actually there. Like, we know it's weird. We're doing the best. Let's all have some fun and let's get cracking. And I think that's people have connected to that. It's like, they know, let's do it.
So I learnt many years ago that radio is another agency of change, in that it has the ability to affect behaviours, norms, values. And I think with that comes a great responsibility.
So you're here to change effectively, or to support the change and to motivate or drive the change faster, both in our diversity as a broadcaster and in terms of what we put out of the speakers.
Yes, I think all broadcasters have an opportunity to really shift the needle and better represent the audiences and the communities that they serve. And by just looking into its structures, its processes, procedures, you know, deep diving, just to identify opportunities of where they can do things differently.
So Mikhail, I understand that the RMF-FM group is the #1 trusted radio media in Poland. That must have been very important to you this year of all years. And do you feel that bond between yourselves and your listeners has strengthened through 2020?
Well, I think so. I think that generally the established media are the first choice source of information for the public now, simply because we filter out the noise, and social media, for example, has been plummeting for the last year. The number of people who are afraid of fake news is growing, and in Poland, as far as I know, this number is reaching 80% now. So it underlines our role in society, especially because this situation is changing so rapidly and people are really afraid of risks to not only to their health, but also to their wealth and their rights. So our established position as the station which is keeping an eye on what politicians are doing is very important for us.
You two have really connected with the audience this year. Has it felt different?
Yes, hugely different. I think that everyone started working from home. We did the same. Bauer gave us the technology to do the show from home. So I think that also helps us connect with the audience.
I think we've learned a lot from our situation, from doing the show from home, because we built the chemistry in the first few months together, face to face. We then had to relearn that through FaceTime, Zoom, whatever it may be, when we're interviewing people or when we're just doing the show from our homes. And I think it made us stronger as well. And I know I can hear it in her voice now, what I used to know in her face. And where I need to go somewhere else with something, I can hear it now. I've become a very good listener.
Wow, very good.
Yeah, thanks.
An unexpected benefit.
Yes, absolutely. I tell you, I'm a threat now, definitely. Yeah.
To the show.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Paul.
What's happened?
Well, it has been an extraordinary year for digital listening. Because of the pandemic, we've seen listening patterns change perhaps forever and really accelerate that digital listening over to our platforms. It means that we've seen here in Bauer phenomenal growth, both in our listening hours and our reach. From annual, if you look at year on year for quarters 2 and 3 to pre-COVID, it's just been incredible. Obviously, because people are locked in at home, that means that smart speakers have benefited the most, and they've just shot through the roof in the UK for listening.
So a new form of listening is emerging, and that new form of listening on smart speakers is now a pretty significant platform.
Absolutely is, and because of that, those partnerships with those big players like Amazon and Google are more important than ever. And right now it's really a mutually beneficial relationship. We know how important our content is for those platforms, and equally we want to ensure that our content and our experiences are available to all of our listeners wherever they may be.
So, I got some perspective on what really matters from some experts working on a medium that really matters. I hope, like me, you share my sense of pride in the role we've played during this crisis and my optimism for the future. As I said at the start, we've learned a huge amount over the past few months about ourselves, our advertisers and our listeners. We are wiser and better for it, and we should enter next year feeling braver and bolder. However, we shouldn't be too self-congratulatory. I expect 2021 to unleash a wave of creativity, innovation, and intense competition as we leave the confines of our homes and start exploring the world again. And so we must rest, recuperate and recharge over the coming weeks so that we're all match fit for the great reset that we hope and expect to see in 2021. When I last had the privilege to speak to many of you, it was back in 2019 in Lausanne. I said then that there had never been a better time to be in commercial radio. Today I strongly believe that there has never been a better time to be more proud of commercial radio. I wish you and your families a very happy and healthy holiday season. I can't wait to see you in person in Lisbon next year. Thank you for watching and Merry Christmas.
That was amazing. What a great way to kick off our Christmas lunch. And thank you to all our friends at Bauer Media. Thank you, Bauer Media, for being part of the Radio Days Europe family. That was fantastic. We're moving on to our next video now. We have three speakers. The first one is Helen Thomas. Helen has been a speaker at the last number of Radio Days Europe events, and she's now the head of BBC Radio 2 in the UK. And after that, we're going to hear from a young host from Finland. His name is Jani Karjanian, and he'll be telling us about his experience of the lockdown. And then we're going to hear from the team at P4 at NRK in Norway. They're giving us a look at their swanky studio. So guys, it's over to you.
Hello, I'm Helen Thomas, and I'm the head of BBC Radio 2. If someone had said to me back in July that in 2 months' time I'd be running Europe's biggest radio station from a flat in North London and alongside my dad in Hull when the restrictions allowed, on a rickety BBC laptop with practically everyone working remotely, in the midst of a global pandemic no less, I would have laughed hysterically and called them a crazy fantasist. It still sounds insane, but this is where we find ourselves now in December, having worked in that way since March. My overriding feeling about the year is one of huge admiration and awe for everyone connected to Radio 2. All our presenters and production staff, our schedulers, our operations and business teams, in fact, everyone in every department instantly stepped up with one clear focus: to keep Radio 2 on air and sounding as normal as possible for our listeners, despite all the chaos and uncertainty swirling around outside. We were very clear we wanted to ensure our broadcasts were technically resilient. Our reasoning being that if Radio 2 started falling off the air due to people's dodgy Wi-Fi connections at home, then our audience of over 14 million listeners really would start to panic. So we had to ensure that our studios were as safe as they possibly could be to broadcast from. We implemented a rigorous cleaning regime, heavily stocking each studio with wipes and hand sanitizer, and made sure each presenter had their own mic shield. We set up separate production points on the 6th floor of Wogan House to ensure the presenter was broadcasting from a sterile box, the studio manager was driving the show from a sterile box, and the producer controlled everything from a sterile space down the corridor. Staffing was reduced to a bare minimum, just one member of production per show, with other team members working remotely from home. At the start of lockdown, we worked up several contingency schedules, each one more drastic than the last. We prioritised weekday daytime and weekend breakfast and mid-morning shows for live transmissions from Wogan House or Media City in Salford. Everything else was to be pre-recorded remotely. Again, all our production suppliers rose admirably to the challenge of getting technical equipment to our presenters right across the country and giving them lessons in how to use the kit at very short notice. At Radio 2, we have a number of presenters who fell into the category the UK government classified as vulnerable due to their age. During lockdown, this meant they were advised not to travel into central London. So some presenters pre-recorded their shows from home studios. Bob Harris has a studio at the end of his garden. Ken Bruce hosts the biggest show on UK radio, which also happens to feature the most popular quiz in the country, Popmaster. Ken Bruce not being on air was not an option. So we hastily arranged for a top-of-the-range BBC outside broadcast kit to be delivered and set up for Ken at home in Oxfordshire. He was and remains the only Radio 2 presenter to broadcast live from his home. At Radio 2, we encourage our presenters to be authentic at all times. The value of this connection they have with our audience and the vital companionship they provide has never been brought home more than the broadcasting they did during lockdown. We saw a surge in digital listening to Radio 2, and we're still up over 30% on where we were back in February. And the volume of text, email and social traffic to programmes has increased exponentially. Our presenters have never felt more loved, valued or appreciated. It really brings home the importance of live radio, the need people have to feel someone is talking directly to them in that particular instant. This sense of immediacy informed the decision early on in lockdown to create the Great British Sing-Along, a moment at 9 a.m. every Thursday where all 5 of the BBC's pop networks, led admirably by Lorna Clark, came together to simulcast for 30 minutes to lift the nation's spirits and amplify that sense of family and the sense that we were all in this together. We acquired Bruce Springsteen's Serious radio show, From My Home to Yours, to give UK listeners an insight into how one of the biggest rock and roll icons in the world was coping with lockdown on his ranch in New Jersey. It quickly became one of our biggest on-demand shows on BBC Sounds, along with the ever-upbeat Sounds of the 90s presented by Fern Cotton, proving listeners were desperate for escape from rolling news. We built on this theme of escape and the nation's newfound love for quizzing by supersizing the UK's favourite pop quiz Popmaster back in May. We ran it across a whole day on Radio 2 and invited presenters from commercial radio and other BBC stations to take part and compete with listeners. We know that live music brings everyone together to feel great. But with the pandemic wiping out the opportunity for people to get up close with their favourite artists in 2020, as a public service broadcaster, at Radio 2 we felt compelled to recreate that sensation. We dug into the BBC archive to repackage the best ever sets from Glastonbury. Beyoncé from 2011 and David Bowie from 2000 were particular highlights. The whole BBC Glastonbury Experience archive offer across radio, television and digital, including BBC Sounds and BBC iPlayer, pulled in practically as many viewers and listeners as if it had been an original festival. So we could clearly sense how starved everyone felt of live performance. As a result, on Radio 2 as well as on BBC4 and iPlayer, we mined the archive again for In Concert 50 during the month of November, surfacing 50 amazing gigs from the last 50 years from the likes of Fleetwood Mac, Luther Vandross, Annie Lennox, Ed Sheeran and Coldplay for our audience to lose themselves in. It has proved a huge success with over 500,000 on-demand listens on BBC Sounds so far. We also created Radio 2 House Music, where an artist such as Melanie C, Sir Cliff Richard, Kelly Clarkson or Roachford recorded tracks at home for us, onto which we overlaid the amazing BBC Concert Orchestra, a totally unique proposition and no mean feat of editing and mixing. More big stars came out to play for Radio 2 Live at Home. Normally, our flagship network event takes place in London's Hyde Park in September, with 50,000 happy Radio 2 listeners in attendance. Obviously, that was a non-starter this year, but with restrictions lifting a little over the summer, our brilliant head of music, Jeff Smith, set about convincing the likes of John Legend, Tom Jones and the Pretenders to perform for us. Sheryl Crow sang for us outside her barn in Nashville. Gregory Porter sang for us on the roof of the Capitol building in LA. The Killers performed on the roof of Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. It was nothing short of spectacular and delivered enormous numbers for us digitally across iPlayer, Sounds and YouTube. And Jeff wasn't finished there. In November, to mark BBC Children in Need's 40th anniversary, he pulled together the most incredible lineup of artists, including actual Cher, for a cover of Oasis's Stop Crying Your Heart Out. The song entered the UK charts at number 7, the highest new entry and most downloaded song of the week. To date, it has raised well over £500,000 for the charity. Back on air at Radio 2, we engaged the services of one of the real saviours of 2020, the nation's PE teacher, Joe Wicks, who embarked on an astonishing 24-hour PE challenge for children in need.
24 hours of exercise.
It was a superhuman feat, which Joe achieved almost without breaking sweat. After working out alongside the likes of Sam Smith, Pussycat Doll Kimberly Wyatt, and numerous Olympic and Paralympic athletes, all of whom were on Zoom, Joe completed his 24-hour marathon with a cartwheel and raised over £2.5 million for children in need, the highest total we have ever raised in 24 hours by over £1 million. We love you, Joe. There are so many other amazing things I could mention, including our friendship season in July or our grief conversations social action campaign in October, both of which offered practical advice, were really timely and deeply resonated with our audience. And of course, there was our world exclusive programming to mark what would have been John Lennon's 80th birthday. In his first ever radio interview, Sean Ono Lennon talked to his brother Julian, his godfather Sir Elton John, and Sir Paul McCartney about his dad, John. It made headlines around the globe. What 2020 has taught me is that anything is possible if everyone pulls together in the same direction with a shared goal. I've learned that the people I work with, both on and off the air, are remarkable, the very best in the business. A huge positive of this strange old year is that I now hold a weekly Zoom meeting with all the Radio 2 presenters, who are a hugely impressive bunch of individuals in their own right. There's Michael Ball, Sarah Cox, Ryland Clark-Neal, Dermot O'Leary, Zoe Ball, Claudia Winkleman, Lisa Tarbuck, Tony Blackburn, Kerris Matthews. The list goes on and on. I'm always blown away by the pride and joy they feel at working for the station. Their energy and commitment is inspiring. For 2021, we have some hugely exciting and ambitious creative plans that we'll be able to share with you all really soon, including a very special celebration of musical theatre. But the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is post-vaccine getting all the presenters and as many people as we can safely back into Wogan House. It's a magical building. And even though we've achieved so much working in these strange conditions this year, even more amazing things happen when we're all there together. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jani from a Finnish radio station Yle X. And this spring, when Finland went into lockdown, it was on the same day that I came back from abroad. And because of that, I went into a 2-week quarantine, and that was the same time when we built this remote radio studio into my room that I still sometimes use for making radio. But during the 2-week quarantine, I had to do all of my shows beforehand. And I really struggled when I couldn't be there together with my listeners live in the moment. And on top of my mid-morning daily show, I do a show on Friday nights. And this year I've really realized how important live radio can be. Especially now when people can't do what they normally do on a Friday night, you have to be there. And rather than them listening to you, you have to listen to what they have to say. You have to take them into your show. You have to read their messages and just be there together with them, living through these really weird times. So what I've learned this year in radio, that live moments are really important and live radio can be very powerful.
Hello. Hey, it's the radio directors in Europe. And this is Radio P4 in Norway. And excuse me, we are in the middle of a radio chief debate.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
So important.
And what are you doing now, Ulla?
I'm gonna anti-back the whole place.
Yes. During COVID-19, we have, my name is Øystein, I'm a program leader of the morning show, and during COVID-19 we have no guests here in the studio, but the pro with that is that we are home with the celebrities of Norway and get a tour of their homes, so that's cool. Daniel, you're a program leader in the afternoon. How does COVID-19 affect your show?
Well, a lot of anti-bac. It's impossible to breathe in the studio for about 40 minutes every single day because we anti-bac the whole thing, which feels good.
Yeah.
No guests. We sit on opposite desks so that we don't sit next to each other. Our morning meetings look insane because we sit in a huge circle to have at least 2 meters between everyone. So it's affected us.
Yeah. Has COVID-19 affected your show more than Santa in your studio? Because he threw up here.
What?
Santa Claus.
He threw up here?
Yeah, it's so much Christmas pint.
So much Christmas pint.
Yeah.
I don't, by the way, think it's called program leader. In
No,
English.
what's the name? Show host?
Host.
Yes, host. That's P4.
Thank you to our friends at P4 at NRK in Norway for that look at their studio. As you can see, a pretty swanky studio I've got going on here in Rome as well for Radio Days Europe. No expense spared this Christmas with the building of this studio. If I touched anything there, the whole thing would collapse. That would all fall from the ceiling. So I'm not going to move. And Jani in Finland as well. Thank you for sharing your experience of the lockdown. And Helen Thomas, the head of BBC Radio 2. Helen from Hull. Who would have thought that someone from Hull would go on to become the controller, the head of BBC Radio 2? It's remarkable. I don't know why we're saying that. Helen, I hope you're not offended. That was in my script to say that. Someone here has it out for Hull. Hull is a beautiful place. It's beautiful like my set. Anyway, we've more great videos to come throughout the program, but now we're going to shift gears a small bit and get a little bit more serious because we're going to hear from one of our long-time supporters. This is Stefan Muller. He is the president of AER, and we're going to hear as well from a presenter and a producer in the UK, Kaylee Golding. Guys, it's over to you.
Hello to you all. My name is Stefan Möller and I act as the president for the Association of European Radios, AER, and my other hat is being the CEO of the trade body Radio Media in Finland. AER represents some 5,000 radio stations across the EU nations, and Switzerland is also a member. Greetings from Helsinki, where I am now located, or shall we say stuck at the moment. I sure miss all the events that could not take place this year. I don't even remember when I've been to Brussels the last time. I don't think I've been sitting in an airplane since end of February or something. And if my face looks funny, it's because it's been shaped of wearing headsets and all the screen watching, you know, with all the meetings on Skype, Zoom, you name it, Teams. And I think that's the situation for most of us today. We have all got familiar with online streams and video meetings and webinars. We have made all our awards events like streamed events. And nowadays when you have meetings, the meetings don't start with a coffee and small talks. It starts with things like, can you hear me? Can you see me? Do we have a bad connection? Maybe if I turn my video off, okay, now you can hear me when the video is off. Oh, that's good because I don't look good anywhere else than on radio anyway. Ha, that's the situation for all of us. Anyway, I have to share with you what I heard on the radio. One host, you could tell that he was really being fed up with this social distancing thing, and I think the way he said it sounded funny some way, but I'm going to share it with you. He said, I have never been without so many social contacts that I now would desperately need. I have never been without so many social contacts that I now would desperately need. Well, it sounded that way, and I feel that way too. Radio has suffered all over Europe. We have differences in different markets, and we have calculated with AER that this year would end with an average from 15 to 25% minus for commercial radio. But there are markets within EU that has suffered even more. For example, local markets that has have minus percentage up to 90% of their revenue. Then we went into the summer and everything looked pretty good, and we all hoped that that would have continued now to the fall, but no, and not this winter either. Even if there is a light in the tunnel in terms of vaccines coming out, so let's just try to hang in there. But anyway, commercial radio need still support in order to ride out this storm. A lot of work has been done by commercial radios across EU, calling regulators and governments to support the sector. Demands range from financial aid to relaxations of rules. We have been very active as AER in Brussels, but all actors also on a national level. And various ways of support has been given, and that has been important in order to help the radio to survive. And that support is still needed. Radio has an important role in their own communities. Of course, it has been important that radio provides reliable news and info about the virus. Radio is your trusted guide and an important companion. I'm very proud of the actions that radio has done. There are some excellent creative minds out there. There has been actions like raising money for charity, helping entrepreneurs by broadcasting info about their services for free. One radio company started a temporary radio station as part of a campaign raising money and support to musicians, people on the road crew, engineers, people in the entertainment business overall, that just like that was without any job when all the events got cancelled. They got to tell the story on the radio station, and they also played their own favorite music on the station. Great supporting campaigns and actions. There has been some positive development for radio during this crisis. We have seen general increase in listening. Even if we have had less in-car listenings, we've seen shifting to home listening. And also some shifting in peak times a little later than usual. Maybe we wake up a little later during the crisis when we don't necessarily need to go to the office as normal. And important is the value that people have found in radio, news, updates and companionship while working from home. Showing how important radio is in people's daily routines and how integrated it is in people's life. Radio is maybe more important than ever. But looking towards the future and to next year, we are in a world, the audio world, that is expanding. Options of getting great audio content is growing. I feel positive about next year and the future. Radio is a part of the growing audio world. I believe that we have a situation with the corona that can be compared to running the marathon. We are very tired at the moment with just a few miles left. So let's just run the last miles or even just walk the last miles, because I'm sure at the end of this marathon we will for sure have a great celebration. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a much better New Year. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep up the spirit, don't let anything bring you down.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Golden and I am an assistant producer for Magic FM and also a radio presenter for BBC Radio WM and also Represent Radio. Now, 2020 has taught me about radio that our audiences really need us. Like, we are a support system, we're that friend And that's what's so special about radio. It's such a personal medium. So in times that are so challenging, like 2020, we are really that friend that people needed when you couldn't even go out and see your actual friends. Something else is that the content will never stop. Radio can never die. We have got through a whole world pandemic, and I've never seen such great content. Like the Zoom interviews, you can connect with anyone throughout the world. I've never seen such a variety of interviews on air before. It just shows that we're able to adapt and make content no matter what. I'm Kaylee Golden, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Thank you very much, Kelly. We are that friend you talked about. And Stefan, thank you so much as well. We'll hear more from Stefan, a special message towards the end of the programme. Now, Radio Days Europe podcast day still went ahead in 2020, but it was virtual, just like this event. And if you missed it, here's a short highlight of what the event was like.
Hi, this is Peter, the General Manager of Podcast Day by RadioDays Europe. We hope you are safe wherever you are in the world. So instead, we are pleased to announce that we are going online for 2020.
I'm Julie Shapiro, Executive Producer of Radiotopia from PRX, a network of independent, producer-owned, listener-supported podcasts, one of which is Ear Hustle, which I'm very lucky to work closely with. And I'm here with my wonderful colleagues and friends, co-founders, co-hosts, and co-producers of Ear Hustle, Nigel Poor and Erlon Woods.
Hello, how you doing?
Hi, my name is Antti Holma, and my primary fuel for anything creative is hatred and envy. So when, for whatever reason, I got a carte blanche from the Finnish broadcasting company to create pretty much whatever I wanted, it became Radio Sodom, a sort of a valve to let out everything I hate and have revenge on all of the people who've been mean to me or who I think don't deserve their success. I obviously call it a satire, but it was really just a thinly veiled personal vendetta against everything and everybody.
Hi, I'm Cass Denton, radio and podcast producer, 1/3 of Unedited. And I am joined by, I'm going to call her legendary because she does so much stuff, like multi-hyphened, like everything. Hannah Walker-Brown. Welcome, Hannah.
I think we can just call that busy, not legendary.
I'm gonna stick with
that. I mean, I'll take it. It's a nice thing.
Josh Rivers, it is an absolute pleasure to be able to speak to you, particularly because your podcast, Busy Being Black, has been so successful. It's a collection of insightful and powerful uncoverings of what it means to be both of Black heritage and LGBTQ.
First, thank you for saying that. Uncoverings is such a beautiful way of describing the stories that are told on Busy Being Black.
Within the community itself, there are many, many stereotypes. And I feel like the episodes within this podcast break through those stereotypes.
I feel really emotional that you said that. Sorry. That makes me feel really emotional that you responded to Busy in that way.
Context that my father went to hospital in March 26th, and he was inducted to coma in April the 2nd. And this podcast was published in late June. So I wanted to tell him what was happening in our country and in the world while he was slept, hoping that he could recover soon and listen to it. And a lot of people who had lost someone because of COVID-19 share their stories with us. And it made me feel understood. There have been a lot of terrible stories that deserve that deserve love and recognition, of course. And I feel happy that sharing our example, may have helped other people too. Why not?
Joining me on this panel today is Rabina Pabani, Poppy J, and Raim Rahman. They're from Brown Girls Do It Too. They won 2 British Podcast Awards this year, one for the Best Sex and Relationships podcast, and they also won the overall Podcast of the Year. So it's a great show to talk about.
After like 2 years experience of podcasting, trying to hit that global sort of those global figures with a different show, I was quite successful. I managed to bring people together. So I thought, I wonder what I could do if I hit this on a local scale.
Welcome, Tim Hinman. You are one of the two founders of the production company Third Ear that set off in Denmark 2009, I think it was, and has since grown and into be one of the most respectable and successful production companies and podcast in Scandinavia. This story needs to have all the elements. Of how much do you actually add to the story when you work with it? Do you bend reality or
Well, we only make true stories and we don't distort truth, but yeah, of course, reality, anyone who makes any kind of media production bends reality. We're not really, don't subscribe to the idea of objectivity in any kind of storytelling, because I don't really believe it exists even in news media. So everything is subjective. We take that from a start point, and we choose to tell the story through our own optic, through our own ears, really. So it's all very much through the personality of the person who's going to tell the story. How could that person tell the story, or how could the character in the story tell the story? It's very important that it has a point of view and a perspective, and that point of view has the potential for being an interesting story, and having the simple elements that any good story has. Any good fairy tale has a good beginning, an end. Something will happen, something will change, something will be different at the end than it was at the beginning, and so forth. Yeah. So.
There you go. That was a little taste of what Podcast Day Online was like this year, and it really was a great event. If you missed it, so many people took part from all over Europe and shared brilliant ideas of how they were ingeniously creating content still in these challenging times, really unique content, and it was a fantastic event. So well done to everyone who was involved in it. Now, Ken Benson, he works for P1 Media, and he noticed something during the coronavirus and during the lockdown. He noticed that radio creators and content creators and audio producers were producing more content than ever before, and they were doing it in a more unique and creative way. So he decided to start a Facebook page where people in the industry could share ideas and share the things they were working on, so we could inspire each other, we could learn from each other, and we could stay in touch as well, because we couldn't meet face to face. Well, this is where the idea of these next award ceremonies came from this Facebook page. They were the Coronavirus Radio Ideas Awards. Great name, by the way. The Coronavirus Radio Ideas Awards. It rolls off the tongue. But these were a bit like Podcast Day in that they were held online in the autumn, and a lot of people sent in their submissions. And here's a little taster of what the event was like, some of the winners, and an overall feel of the great event. Remember, it's the, say it with me, Coronavirus Radio Ideas Awards.
Over 300 ideas became 47 nominees in 13 categories. Voting is complete. The results have been tabulated. And today, we honor radio's best. Welcome to the Coronavirus Radio Ideas Award Show. Presented by P1 Media Group, Benstown, RadioDays Europe, RadioDays Asia, and Podcast Day.
It's a thing. Get on board. Sorry. Social distancing. Get on board. Sorry. Morning, guys. Just social distancing. How are you? Whoop. Hello. Sorry. Social distancing.
Yes, and we wrote this song for you just before Malaysia went into a lockdown. We are very, very happy that so many of you around the world got to enjoy a little parody.
The main thanks I have are to all the people who represented the 193 countries from all over the world who gave us a very unique story and a very unique way of saying, "Up yours, Corona!" And for that week, we felt a lot closer together.
Hi, I'm Molimu Rachel, lead presenter at Energy Radio. And we're so pleased to have won not one, but 2 awards in the Coronavirus Radio Ideas Awards. What a great achievement for the entire team here at Energy Radio.
Thank you so much. I accept this award on behalf of my entire staff here at Magic 92.5. We are all going through some tough times right now, but I think humor will help us all get through this together. So a shout out to all the little people out there, especially all the radio people from all over the world. Thank you so much for this award. We love you.
Community's at the very heart of everything that we do as a broadcaster. So to win this particular category means the absolute world to us.
Hello, it's Clara here from BBC Radio 1, and at times like these by the Radio 1 All-Stars has won the Best Mega Promo Award at the Corona Radio Ideas Awards. A sentence I never thought I'd be saying in 2020, and here we are. Thank you so very much to the international radio industry and, of course, to all of our incredible Radio 1 listeners for voting for us. Thank you.
And we're proud to work in radio. I truly believe gives me back big belief, the strong content we've seen, the amazing content, regardless the platform. Radio will continue to thrive. I'm pretty sure about that. The reaction was so quick in a complicated time. And like I said before, on the behalf of P1 Media Group, RadioDays Europe, RadioDays Asia, Podcast Day, and us, Benstown, of course, thank you so much for your wonderful work. Thank you so much for watching, being part of this, voting. We really do appreciate you. Stay safe.
Well done to all the winners and everyone who took part in the first ever and hopefully only Coronavirus Radio Ideas Awards, held in partnership with RadioDays Europe. This is the Christmas lunch. If you've just joined us, where have you been? We're having an awesome time. We're having an awesome time here. No, I'm only joking. That's a prop. That is a prop. I am still on the tee, my dear friends. I'm still on the tee. But I hope you're having a good time. I hope you're enjoying all our speakers, and we've got great speakers still to come. Like next, as we're getting on with the show, we're going to hear from Katinka Rondan. She is the head of radio at NRK. We're going to hear from her. And then after that, we're going to hear from a team from a different part of NRK in Norway, from P3. So guys, we'll hand it over to you.
My name is Katinka Rondan, and I'm head of radio at Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation. Since this is sort of a Christmas luncheon, I've put myself in front of a Christmas tree to really put you in the right mood. Norway has gone over to DAB, and NRK has 13 radio channels and an increasing amount of podcasts for all age groups. The first thing we thought when Corona started was that we had to diminish the amount of channels, but luckily that was not the case at all. Not only were we able to keep the channels and programs well afloat, but we could also see the advantage of being able to keep the normal schedule on one channel, while at the same time giving the listeners who wanted to hear the live press conference on the news channel to do that. Or maybe relax and forget about the pandemic and listen to classical music. The Norwegian radio listener listens in average to 3 radio channels, twice the amount of what they used to. That has given us quite an opportunity to really adjust and answer to the listener's mood and needs, and offer a range of programming that really fits their lives, which amongst other things means using wisely the many radio channels we have. And this has inspired us to have a really close look at our channels and the programming, and in a much larger degree cooperate about the listeners and work together for a more integral and holistic approach to our total offering to the listener. This is also important when it comes to the combination of radio and podcast listening. Radio isn't diminishing in listening, while at the same time podcast is really increasing. You can say in many ways that the podcast is positioning itself next to the radio. Not instead of radio. The listeners choose podcast for a more intimate, selected listening, for their comedy favorites, for learning and insight and storytelling, while radio is chosen for the live feeling, for company, for gathering as a group, and for news and music. And we find that it is important to really step up the game and not only innovate in the new media of podcast, but also very much so in radio, and discover the new criteria for success in radio to deliver on the uniqueness of each medium. After years of having quite a good position in the market and with the listeners, it can become easy to kind of lean back and let the listeners find us. But it is very much a new world with endless choices for all the people out there. And we see the need to really lean forward and be very conscious and go out of our way to be visible and stand out and be chosen to be relevant to the listener. The fact that we during Corona have been even more than before in the same boat as the listener has reminded us how important it is to be exactly that, close to the listeners' lives. When our radio and podcast hosts were in the home office and wearing pajamas, our listeners were doing the same. That was an important reminder to us, the ability and strength in audio to be near and close to the listener, and reflecting their lives brings us closer and we become much more relevant part of their everyday life. A part of their daily routine, and therefore are chosen. One good example of this was that we, within days after Corona started the podcast in quarantine with two of our most popular hosts, Tuva and Ronny. They also happen to be a couple in real life and live together and could have podcast shows from their home. Every day they gave us an update. And in pajamas with guests sitting at a safe distance outside, and it was light and an entertaining way of coping together, debriefing together and living through big and small challenges together. Both debating and laughing about whether to hoard toilet paper and how worried one should be or how difficult it was to live on top of each other. As one listener said, "Thank you so much for this flash of light, for cheering us up when we need it and make us feel safe. For the big and small moments of everyday life we can share with you." In a way, the couple became the friends the listeners weren't able to meet. And the Tuva and Ronny, they ended up having a festival at Easter, a music festival in their garden. They realized also in the time that in the beginning of the pandemic that they were pregnant, and they now have a baby. All the while reporting and sharing from their home to the listeners, they were in the pandemic together with the listeners. This is one example, but there are several that continues to show audio's unique ability to be close, much closer than any other media. And we shouldn't forget that, but we should tap into it as often as we can. Audio is close, so we should use it and be as close as we can. Another way we have worked with staying in close dialogue with the listener is through developing the possibility to interact in our radio app, NRK Radio. Our hosts are very much the reason the listeners choose us, and very much what is unique to us. And having the radio app be the place where they can be in dialogue is an important part of our strategy to bring the listeners home to our own platform. This is a very important part of our work the next year. And if I can have one New Year wish or Christmas present for us European broadcasters, it would be to have confidence in the media world dominated by a few global players, and that we stand together and cooperate. Thank you for your time. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
I've been working in radio for the last 35 years, but looking back at 2020, I think that I never seen something like this in the past, nor even during the Gulf War or after 9/11 or any other relevant event that happened during our long radio career. It's been strange for a particular reason, because I spent 1 month at the hospital fighting coronavirus, 3 weeks lying in a bed without walking, without eating, without doing absolutely anything what I would have been doing in my regular life. When I left the hospital and I finally got back home, I had the chance to step to the other side and get into the listener's habits. I did it for a long time, and it's been very helpful in order to understand what radio was doing and how good some of the radios were doing regarding what was happening around us, and how bad some other stations were doing their job, how badly they were doing their job, ignoring completely what was happening. I think that the results of the radio figures in 2020 told us that we are still relevant to our listeners, that our listeners are expecting from us reliable, easy to understand and clear information. They expect that their radio is focusing on what is really relevant in their lives. And I think that this should be something that we keep on doing in the next period, even when the emergency will be finished. I think that we have to reconsider some of the rules that we have been following in the last 30 years, because our listeners changed way more than what we did in the last few years. And this is very dangerous. We have to go back to studying and understanding the listeners' habits, but first of all, the listeners' needs and the listeners' expectations. This is a very tough challenge. I don't think it's going to be easy to keep people listening to the radio in the future. And the greatest mistake that we could do is to believe that we are immortal, that we are anyway unbeatable, invincible. It's not going to be easy. We are still going to be part of our listeners' life, but only if we are able to understand what they are expecting from us.
Hello, we are the presenters here at NRK P3.
P3 Morning, do the morning show 6 to 10 every day. Even though it's been a weird year, it's been fun.
Yes, it's been COVID, but we haven't really been affected that much. We just did what we always do. We coughed and we had guests and we laughed, and yeah, this wasn't our plan at all.
Yeah, what's up with the plastic?
Yeah, it's a plexi. It's what we call plexi in Norway. Yeah, and it's what is the plan with that?
To prevent the himitation from the mouth. To prevent the himitation from the mouth. Himitation?
I think he means humidity.
Humidity.
I don't know.
It's good times, Speed Morning. We've been working good, having a great time.
Merry Christmas or something. Say.
If you celebrate Christmas,
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry December.
Merry December. Winter party, as we call it.
Or if you celebrate Shananakaka, happy Shananakaka.
And a Happy New Year.
Thank you very much for that. And Katinka, we're really digging the Christmas tree backdrop. We could really use something like that here, but loved your message and loved that your listenership really increased there as well. That's impressive. And it goes to show, when I think of Ireland, my home country, even though I'm living here in Rome, Bella Roma in Italy, at RTE Radio 1, the public service broadcaster, their listenership as well increased hugely over the past number of months. So it just shows you that the need was there from the listener to be informed more than ever before. And from hearing those inspirational stories, there are so many broadcasters, so many program directors, so many producers who put the listener first. Now we're going to hear from the programming director at Talk FM in Poland, Kamila Karen, next. And we're also going to hear from Piotra Karuszkiski, programming director and editor-in-chief from Agora, followed by a DJ from our host country in 2020, which was Lisbon in Portugal, the city built on 7 hills. That's Ru Maria Pigo from Radio Comercial. And then we have a quick stop in Sweden to hear from Helena Bremberg. She is head of P4 Gotland for Swedish Radio. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to hear back in the UK from Alex Kashuti. He is our Today in Focus at The Guardian. Phew! Over to you guys.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Kamila Ceran and I'm editor-in-chief of Radio Tok FM, which is the biggest talk and news radio station in Poland. We broadcast in 23 cities in Poland, and our daily audience is about 800,000 people.
Hello everyone, my name is Piotr Jaroszewski. I'm responsible for Agora's 3 music radio stations. I'm a program director and editor-in-chief. Our music stations broadcast in 24 major Polish cities. Every day about 1,700,000 listeners are listening to them. Among them we have a station playing the greatest hits of the 80s, 90s and millennium. Its name is Radio Złote Przeboje. We have a station for older listeners in classic oldies format called Radio Pogoda, and station for big fans of classic rock radio.
And suddenly the pandemic came and we had to work together, even though the profile of our stations are completely different.
Our first decision was to stay at home and promote stay at home.
We moved the work to Teams.
We have equipped everyone with computers, even reviving some of the previously discarded.
We have equipped several home studios.
There was a handful of people remaining at the station and they were never in touch with each other.
We planned for Plan B, C and even D. We have closed off some of the production studios to move broadcast there if our main studios were infected.
We moved all our guests to Skype, HD Voice, Lucy, Messenger and phones.
Ewcia, to jest wydawca programu. Also, we have discovered Zencaster for pre-recorded interviews.
We soon discovered direct contact with our listeners was the way to go, so we increased the number of phone-in programs also with experts.
We have organized several entertainment actions.
We invited listeners to play and sing with our rock stars.
We have organized and broadcast home rock concerts.
We have also set up helpline for elder people in order to do shopping for them.
We have promoted stay-at-home hashtag and invited people to send us their masked selfies.
We have organized several sessions of the on-air greetings for people who were unable to visit their loved ones.
And finally, we have set up daily phone-in shows with experts on every possible pandemic subject, from the virus itself to the psychology self-help.
In the pandemic lull phase, spring-summer, we have let reporters out with long microphone roads.
We have set up a pandemic studio in the hall of our office building where the outside guest could come and interact with the presenters.
And then the second wave, much harder, arrived in September, but we were prepared.
We have set up every week virus screenings for everybody working at the station.
Instead of closing of the studios, we have set up those studios so people usually working together have a studio for each person, and we disinfect them in between.
We moved back to the stay-at-home system for whoever could, and the rest does not meet each other at the office.
And we are proud to say the listeners cannot tell the difference.
While the overall time of radio listening has dropped because people were not commuting in their cars and working from home requiring silence, our share of time rocketed.
What also rocketed was the website users.
And the subscriptions for our podcast. That is, all our programs and archives made available offer for a small monthly fee.
We have not increased the fees. In the contrary, in the several months in the beginning, we have offered the subscriptions free to everybody in exchange for a code Stay at Home.
Those free subscriptions turned into sales. Most of our 20% growth in the last 9 months. We are at almost 26,000 now.
So our lesson from this is do what you do best and what your listeners expect you to.
Educate.
Entertain.
Communicate.
Help.
Be a part of the community.
Thank you.
Yup, we're all doing the same. We all look the same everywhere around the globe. Hello, welcome to Lisbon, Portugal. My name is Rui Maria Pego. Let me just disinfect myself. We have these in the studio as well. And we have panels. Not to prevent us from speaking to each other, but to prevent us from spreading the virus. The pandemic changed much of our lives, but it didn't change I think, our fundamental need to be seen and to be heard. And that's what we do every day here at Rádio Comercial, Portugal's #1 rated station. I host a show called What Was Missing, where I interview people from all walks of life. And I think if I have to choose a word to make me think about 2020, I think the word is adaptation. We had to adapt. And I think radio, again, surpassed expectations and became as powerful as ever, if not more. So the verb is to rise, the word is adaptation.
Hello Europe, I'm Helena Brännberg from Swedish Radio. I'm the head of a region in the middle of Sweden. And we produce 4 regional channels and some nationwide content as well. This year, my friends, this year we will talk about 4 years, 4 decades with our grandchildren and grandchildren, because this has been something very extraordinary. And when I spoke to my CEO the other day, Silla Benke, we realized that we should be absolutely proud of what we have achieved during this period. We managed to produce very important radio, and we have actually increased our audience with considerably high levels. So this is good for public service in Sweden. We broadcast from kitchen tables, from bedrooms, from the field of course, from everywhere. And we have done a lot of good journalism, and we have offered live music and drama and so on, despite this pandemic. So we are proud and we are happy and lucky to say that none of us have been seriously ill in COVID-19. But in April, a very famous host at commercial radio died in the disease, and it all shook us, of course. For the future, I think that we will continue to broadcast from outside the editorial office, but I think most of us will go back to the broadcast houses and work from there. But maybe some of us will continue to work from home 1 or 2 days a week. We'll see. We will definitely have more digital meetings, and we will travel less, that's for sure. I hope that we will meet in Lisbon in May, but until then, I hope you will celebrate a merry and peaceful Christmas. That's from us, from Swedish Radio, and from me, Helena Brännberg. Take care. Bye-bye.
What the events of 2020 have taught me about audio and radio, I would say simply and truthfully that it's taught me to trust in myself, in my ability, in my craft. Not only has the 30 under 30 recognition been something, but it's also the winning of 2 gold awards from international audio festival bodies, the Third Coast Festival and the Sarah Awards, that have completely blown my mind and humbled me in the best way, because never did I believe that my truth and my confusions were able to connect with people in such a way and recognized in such a way. So it's been deeply encouraging and very, very special, and something I intend to do more of.
Thank you so much, guys, for sharing those great initiatives with us. And it was great to hear from across Europe there, and from countries we don't always hear from as well at Radio Days Europe. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. And now we are going from talking about Europe to talking about Asia, because Radio Days Asia will be held next year virtually. It has been confirmed between the 24th and the 26th of March 2021. Now, the first Radio Days Asia was held in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia in 2019. And in 2021, we are focusing on the sound future for radio and podcasting in the Asia Pacific region, with speakers from across Asia, from India to Singapore, from Korea to Indonesia, from China to Australia, as well as from around the world. Radio Days Asia, this time being virtual, means that you can participate from home. You can see already some of these speakers have been announced, and registration is open at RadioDaysAsia.com, and you can get a great deal. Hear me now. You can get a great deal, the early bird package, if you book early. So RadioDaysAsia.com is the website. Order now and get a free highlighter pen, and you'll be part of the growing family. It's fantastic. Now, we are moving on, because from some new faces to a familiar face, because next we're going to hear from Graham Dixon. He's the head of radio at the European Broadcasting Union, and he has some wise words for us. And then we're going to go to two opposite ends of Europe. We're going from the snow to the sun, I think you could say. We're going to hear from Ariane Engebo. She is a host at Where Else But NRK. Everyone's from NRK in this show. It's fantastic. Everyone from Norway is taking part in this. She works for P3 at NRK. And then we're going to talk to Velisis Valkos at Rhythmus 949. I love that station. Rhythmus 949. Rhythmus 949. So guys, let's hear from you. First, we'll start at the EBU.
As we don't need reminding, it's been quite a year. Lockdown, second wave, we've added new words to our vocabulary and new life experiences we never thought we'd have. It's been a roller coaster for so many of us, and also for the media industry in general. I want to start today by talking about trust, because if we don't have trust, we are lost. Every human transaction relies on having confidence in someone else, and it's the same for media. If the audience doesn't trust us, well, we're finished. Fortunately, radio has been and continues to be the most trusted medium, and that's a good start, but we have new challenges. Working in public media, impartiality is absolutely in the DNA. And in the increasingly polarised world we inhabit, the world of Trump, the world of Brexit, people don't want to hear both sides of an argument, and sadly, some politicians are even seeking to accentuate and increase that sense of division. And Fox News, as we know, has lost its most loyal viewer as the screens of the White House turned to Newsmax when Fox showed some independence of thought and reporting. But society, democracy itself, relies on debating diverse opinions, and the public relationship with the broadcaster needs to be sufficiently multifaceted to keep people listening, even when we do present both sides, as we're obliged to. Psychologists speak of affirmation bias, and that's the warm feeling we have when someone actually agrees with us. We all know it from time to time. But how do we hold that middle ground? Only through trust, I would maintain, a trust which will come from a broad range of programming, reflecting people's interests, their hopes and their concerns. Now, radio showed itself incredibly flexible during the first COVID wave earlier this year, providing people with a voice, giving them psychological support, distributing reliable information, but also providing some lighter moments. Schedules changed overnight. And in 5 years at the EBU, I have to say, I've been really impressed by how members responded so quickly to developing platforms and new ways of listening, not just during the COVID period, but actually over the last 5 years. And we've really seen that flexibility this year as well. 5 years ago, DAB was centre stage. We were all talking about it. But soon we were discussing the potential of voice-activated devices, enhancing the podcasting experience, digging deep into archives, and providing attractive new apps with extra material around the live broadcast. But unfortunately, in the car, radio can still seem really dull, presenting a grey screen with some incomprehensible and absolutely irrelevant frequency, 98.3 for example. Sorry if that's your frequency. But that's not the rich informational world that we've grown to know through the internet. We need to make the radio experience in the car more attractive, and that needs to happen urgently. Now, I'm not against the services provided by Spotify, Apple, and even Netflix for video. Don't worry, I subscribe to some of those. But what makes radio special is the profound sense of connection to the community. We need local, regional, and national audio production, well-funded and attracting the most creative people. And keeping this radio experience special, not hidden behind layers of intermediaries, that's really important as part of interpreting our own life experience in the times we live and where we live. I've talked about trust and technology, so in the way of these things, I guess we need another word starting with T. So let's talk about talent, because our distribution can be first class, but unless there's compelling programming, then the exercise is completely pointless. Public radio in particular has a responsibility to explore and to take risks, and this applies as much to music as to the world of ideas and information. But we're not going to produce diverse ideas unless producers, speakers and management too reflect their communities and the diversity of those communities. And that's a challenge because sometimes the great broadcasting institutions can seem quite off-putting from the outside. Would they actually want to employ someone like me? People might ask. Broadcasters need to be imaginative about recruitment and connect with the best creative talent from all backgrounds if they're going to survive and flourish. Now, people have often predicted the death of radio in the television era. One Australian, I forget who now, memorably described radio as the cockroach of the media family, very difficult to eradicate, surviving almost anything. And the concentration on audio, often visually enhanced these days, of course, is its strength. Audio absolutely at the heart of what we do, even if there are some pictures and visuals, because it's what makes a long car journey or even doing the ironing tolerable. It's company, and particularly in lockdown, it gives vital companionship, bringing the outside world in real time into the living room, into the kitchen. And the extraordinary success of podcasts during this strange year indicates that people are also making time for audio, for radio, for audio as a primary immersive experience. That's incredibly encouraging. So radio has once again this year shown itself to be the most trusted medium, uniting rather than dividing peoples. It has shown flexibility as radio people adapted programming overnight, as well as turning their bedrooms into studios. This digital and content transformation has been really inspiring, and it wasn't achieved by strategy plans, important though they are, and I've written a few in my time. Rather, this was all achieved by the can-do attitude of those working in the industry and responding to circumstances as they emerged quickly and unpredictably. We hope things will become normal when people actually take the vaccine. And Michael Ryan from the World Health Organization spoke recently at an EBU event about the importance of media in presenting reasoned voices, specifically giving people reassurance about the vaccines. Now, we know that acceptance of the vaccines is vital, and we have a role to play as media. But in the meantime, radio has that vital role of extending our thought horizons, keeping us sane, quite frankly, and isolated from friends and family, maintaining that warm connection with the outside world. Let's hope that we all meet in person in 2021.
Hello, my name's Ariane. I work in NRK P3 in Norway, and this year I've loved seeing how radio stations across Europe have been getting through the pandemic. I've never seen so much inventive, brilliant ideas through social media and through listening to different radio channels all around. So I really, really love to see how the radio has been adapting to the pandemic and to the situations that we've found ourselves in. Also, I've really, really learned that the radio is important to a lot of people, and in a time where a lot of people are feeling lonely, maybe feeling worried, stressed, maybe even angry at their surroundings, our voices, the voice of the radio, has been important to keep some sort of stability, to make people feel maybe less lonely and a little less scared. So I think moving forward, it's important to remember that even though we're not always going to be in a pandemic, people are still going to be dealing with feelings like that, and that the radio can be important to make people feel more connected and a little less lonely. So that's definitely something that I'm taking with me from this year in radio.
Hello, I'm Vasilis Vlachos from Athens, Greece, and I'm head of the production team on the morning show at Rhythmos Radio and social media manager on the morning show at Antenna TV. Well, as this year comes to an end, I'm thinking that 2020 may have kept us apart, but also brought us close in ways we couldn't even imagine. As you know, for most of the people, radio is like a good friend, and this year, audience's need for communication was even bigger. As radio producers, we responded to this need with even more and better content. Radio shows, interviews, podcasts, live concerts was our company, even the times we had to stay apart from our loved ones. But the most impressive thing was that the audience wanted to communicate with our team through video calls so much, even after the show ended, and now finally it lasts all day long. As the people spend more and more time at home listening to the whole radio show and not just a part of it, we realized how important and how essential our relationship with our audience is, and this made us give the best of ourselves every day. I'm Vasilis, and thank you for having me at Rhythmos Radio.
Thank you very much, guys. Graham, great to see you on the Radio Days stage again, the virtual stage. And also, Norway, digging the green sweater and the green backdrop, all things festive. I love that. And I love what you said about your enthusiasm for keeping the listeners less lonely. That was really beautiful. And then our friend in Greece, Vilisis in Rhythmos, Nanfonan, Rhythmos, Nanfonan. And I hope everyone is enjoying our Christmas lunch. This is the Radio Days Europe Christmas lunch. We're all having a swell, grand old jolly time. And we still have loads more great speakers to come. Now, next we're talking about something very important, because it's obvious if you've been watching this that we focus a lot on the big boys and the big girls, the big players in the radio industry and the heavy hitters. But what about the local radio stations and the community radio stations, these stations that make up a huge part of the fabric of the radio and audio broadcasting industry across Europe and across the world? It has been a hugely difficult year for them because many of them do not have the resources that the rest of us can enjoy. So we're going to hear from a lady called Nadia Belardi. She is from CMFE, or she'll tell us about her story. And then we're going to hear from Niall Powers. He is a friend of mine, a very talented guy from Ireland. He'll be talking to us too. And then Abel Tesfaye, another host from, where else but Norway. Norway in the house. And they'll be talking to us too, because in Norway, I know they go big for Christmas.
Hey, Niall Power here, Head of Station Sound and Breakfast Presenter at Beat 102 and 103 in the southeast of Ireland. For me personally, as someone who lives on my own, I really appreciated during COVID-19 being able to get up, come to work, put that mic up in the studio every day and bring some smiles, companionship and music to the people across our region. Well, we've always known that radio means a lot to millions of people across the globe, but I think COVID has strengthened that relationship even more. With all of us being asked to stay apart, radio really helped to bring us together. If you have that brilliant idea for a radio promotion, then get on it and make it happen. Don't wait till tomorrow. At the start of this year, we invited our listeners to take a leap of faith with us. They entered the competition without knowing what the prize was, and it really worked. Just before the pandemic struck, we managed to send one lucky listener and our friend to 3 concerts across 3 consecutive nights in 3 different countries: Dublin, London and New York. It sounds quite crazy now in a year when we had no concerts, but we're so glad we did it. And that promotion went on to win gold at our National Radio Awards in October, so it was great for the team to have some positive news to celebrate, socially distanced of course.
First off, welcome to the Beat headquarters.
So my message for 2021 is continue to plan those quirky radio ideas. Your listeners will love them and your team will enjoy planning and executing them too. Keep having fun and bringing much needed joy to your listeners. Merry Christmas from all of us here in Radio in Ireland to all of you. Nodig Hunnadit.
Hello, colleague and friends from RadioDays Europe. This is Nadia from Community Media Forum Europe and the project New Neighbors. So what has 2020 meant to me? It has meant rediscovering a lot of really good radio programs. And what have I learned? I have learned to be patient and resilient and to find new ways of doing stuff that we were taking for granted, such as doing workshops as the ones in our project New Neighbors, where we were supposed to meet up around Europe and we ended up obviously doing everything online, but nevertheless we had all of the migrant and refugee radio journalists participating. And what I'm taking with me is I guess, yes, the same spirit of optimism and resilience, and this is what I also wish all of you and everybody doing radio around Europe. All the best, take care, stay safe and be patient.
Hi, my name is Abel. I represent NRK MP3. 2020 has been a really difficult year because of COVID-19 and myself as well, because I can't have the guests, the artists and all the fun things we can do in the studio. But it hasn't been all that bad. With the help of all the listeners, getting text, messages and all the love, we've been able to lift each other up, and 2020 didn't end that bad as well when we NRK MP3 could be the represent Norway during Europe's biggest dance show. A lot of fun, 9 cities, 8 hours. Alan Walker, myself, a big party, and hopefully next year can be as fun as the end of this year.
Thank you all so much, guys. And Nadia, a great message. I think you're right. It's something we all have to think a lot about, supporting community and local stations. And thank you so much for your hugely optimistic message of reliance, of positivity and of patience as well. So thank you. And Niall Powers, my buddy from Ireland, representing the Emerald Isle. Great to hear from you too. And I hope you and your family are safe and well. Now, we are continuing on because our last set of videos, everybody, the Christmas lunch is nearly over, but it's not over yet. Hang on, wait, what's that? Okay, our last set of videos before we lose it. We are going to go back to some different Nordic countries because now we're going to hear from the team at the Rakkerpak podcast company. Tor Arnborn and Dort Pell from Denmark, plus our Gaelic neighbours. We're going to hear from Fabian Randriana Risoa. I rehearsed that a lot, so I think it's right. Randriana Risoa. And he is from BFM TV in France. And then, finally, we have some really sound advice from Bruce Daisley from the Eat, Sleep, Work, Repeat podcast, which basically describes a year in broadcasting.
Du lytter til Radio Rakkerpak 2020.
Hi, and greetings from Denmark. We are Thor and Dorte, Rakkerpak Productions.
When we founded Rakkerpak Productions a year ago, we had no idea how difficult it would be. We knew the industry was growing, we were convinced we could make a living out of our great passion for audio and sound, storytelling and journalism.
But they forgot to tell us about the coronavirus.
So when Denmark went into lockdown in early March, our initial reaction was panic. But pretty fast panic changed to creative ambition. We decided to document this unique and extraordinary time of our history. And who would be better to do this than kids?
And not only our own kids, but Danish kids from all around the world. We asked them to send in their files with their thoughts and feelings from life during this difficult and testing time.
Så knipser jeg, og når jeg knipser, så sker der magi i luften. Okay, jeg er klar. 3, 2, 1, nu. Jeg har godt hørt om den der coronavirus.
Vi skal sætte ind, hvor det virker, der hvor smitten spredes mest.
Og jeg gad godt have, at den ikke kom. Jeg har det mærkeligt. Jeg tror ikke, jeg er den eneste. Ja, det er meget mærkeligt.
Og det er, hvor mennesker forsamler sig.
Nej, vi er ikke bange for at få det. Nej, det er jeg heller ikke.
Der, hvor mange mennesker er samlet.
Hvad sker der? Det hele er bare meget mærkeligt.
Daginstitutioner, skoler, uddannelsesinstitutioner.
Vi passer på farfar. Ja, og farmor og Eivind. Og køber ind for det.
Aktivitetstilbud, arrangementer, kollektiv trafik.
Så de ikke bliver smittet.
Og derfor er det myndighedernes anbefaling, at vi lukker al unødvendig aktivitet ned.
Det er noget lort. Jeg synes, det er svært.
Elever og studerende på alle uddannelsesinstitutioner sendes hjem nu.
Jeg har fået spat af corona, og jeg savner mine venner. Jeg savner skolen. Jeg savner også børnehaven. Vi skal da mundre dem, der sidder derhjemme lidt op.
The program ended up with a pre-Italian nomination, but much more important, it created a community and it gave a bunch of kids a feeling of being able to act and help themselves.
The corona outbreak was a chaotic time for all of us, but especially for the children, because daily lives and routines were turned upside down and no one could answer when is this going to go back to normal.
And both children and parents who participated told us how recording and reporting their lives during this most testing time of their history helped them have a feeling of changing their own future and empowering themselves. And much more important, they also felt it helped other kids. And it made the kids who participated much less scared.
And this is our biggest learning and hope for 2021.
Voices need to be heard, especially during a crisis. We need to document what goes on for now and for the future.
We learned that through co-creation and listener involvement, that a podcast can be an important instrument for this democratic process.
Merry Christmas and great hopes for 2021. Bye now.
Hi, my name is Fabien Andrea Narisoa and I'm working as an audio producer for BFM TV. It's been a crazy year, but I think at least we rediscovered our audio production was easy compared to video. I mean, with only a few blankets and a microphone, and we could still produce our shows. And we should not be so concerned about the audio quality of our programs, because what our audiences told us during this pandemic, this crisis, is that the most important for them was the quality of the story and not the quality of sound. I mean, it doesn't matter if you gotta reach someone on the phone for your podcast. The only thing that matters is the quality of the story.
Hello radio, I'm Bruce Daisley. I used to work in radio and then I went on to work at companies like Google and Twitter. Today I spend my time trying to work out how we can make work better on things like my podcast, Eat, Sleep, Work, Repeat. I wanted to share some tips of how we could make work less awful in Corona times. Number 1, get some daylight. A lot of us have realised there are different stages of lockdown. We look back at early lockdown now, nostalgically it was like the heyday. Energy levels have significantly dipped since the summer, and a lot of it's just simply seasonal. So making sure you get a lunch break in the sun has never been more important. Now, if your boss is one of those tyrants who schedules calls all day and you don't have a break in your calendar, then maybe one solution is to take one of those calls outside. Might be grab your phone, go to the park, or go in the garden. If you don't have a garden, I understand, use a nearby lay-by or bus shelter. But make sure you get some vitamin C in the system. One of the things you might be worried about is whether this creates issues of confidentiality. And I would like you to think about the words of the New York Mafia. There was only one time in history that a member of the New York Mafia took the stand in court. And he said these words. He said, "The rules of the Mafia are you never talk in a club, you never talk in a car, you never talk in a train, you never talk in a bar." I really like this. Dr. Seuss could have turned this into a New York Mafia Dr. Seuss book, right? He said the only place to talk was on a walk. And so if it's good enough for the New York Mafia, surely it's good enough for global. Only joking. Number 2, give people problems. The polling company Gallup run the world's biggest workplace survey. They measure how engaged people are with our jobs around the world. The results are really, really depressing. In the UK, 13% of people are engaged with our jobs. To put that in context, when you look at the rest of the numbers, there's double the number of people who are actively disengaged with their jobs as engaged. That means when you meet a colleague, maybe when we go back to meeting in real life or when you're on a Zoom call, it's twice as likely that they're secretly plotting the downfall of the organisation as trying to make it succeed. Something to brighten up the next Zoom call you're on. Over half of the workforce is disengaged. And here's the strange thing. In the start of the lockdown, those engagement levels went up. So do you remember that hectic time when we were trying to make remote working succeed? We saw people get more engaged with their jobs. And that's the truth. When work requires more of us, it becomes more challenging. So if you're a manager, giving your teams problems to solve and the freedom to come up with the answers is one of the best things you can do. Give people problems. Number 3, understand that your phone and your brain have got far more in common than you might realise. Our brains are like a phone battery. Sometimes when we're thinking about how we're working, we remember times when we pulled all-nighters, or we remembered how we used to study late into the night to pass exams. And it tells us a story about the way we can work that isn't necessarily true. In fact, evidence suggests our brains are finite. They can only do a certain amount of thinking each day. So because of that, I'd ask you to think what the most important things you've got to get done are and focus on doing them at the start of the day. Treat your brain like the battery on your phone. Number 4, understand resilience. We've heard a lot about resilience this year. We've been told to be resilient. We've urged other people to be resilient. But for me, resilience is a bit like calming down. I'm not sure if you've ever had one of those moments that you aren't necessarily that proud of in hindsight. You were losing it, and then some helpful soul wanders over and says, calm down. Now, as someone said to me, never in the history of calming down has someone calmed down by being told to calm down. And never in the history of being resilient has someone been resilient by being told to be resilient. We're resilient when we feel connected to others in a meaningful way. So make sure you're taking time to connect with the people who matter to you in your life, even if it means putting work on pause slightly. There's my 4 tips. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk here. Radio remains my first love. And if you're interested, you can find out more on my website, eatsleepworkrepeat.com. I'm Bruce Daisley. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much, guys. That was a beautiful message. Our children are our future. And it just shows you when you hear the COVID-19 experience, the COVID-19 situation through the filter of a child, it just shows you how powerful audio can be, not just for children, but for adults too. So thank you, Tor and Dort, for bringing that to us from Denmark. And Fabian in France, thank you so much too. And to Bruce. Bruce, what a legend. Dr. Zeus, the New York Mafia. And don't forget to check out his podcast, not to be confused with Eat, Pray, Love. It is Eat, Sleep, Work, Repeat. How many of us can relate to that? Eat, sleep, work, repeat. Now, we are on to one of our last messages, and this really is an inspirational message that I think will resonate with all of you. It's from Mark Vossen, the General Manager of Nostalgie, NRJ. He has this honest and open message that he wants to share with all of us.
Hello everybody. First of all, in the name of Energy Group Belgium, I would like to greet you and to wish you, despite everything, pleasant and peaceful and of the year 2020. During this unbelievable year, once again, we have seen that in a period of crisis, radio is essential for the world. It strengthens links between people. Thanks to this magical tool, the voice. The voices of our hosts and journalists played an essential role in being the listeners, and especially those suffering from loneliness. At Nostalgie, Energy, Sherry, Nostalgie Plus, the voices are ambassadors of solidarity, empathy, and love. Yes, I said love. You know, at our place, when our hosts and journalists switch on their microphone, they don't speak to 1 million people, or 100,000, or 1,000. They each speak to only one person. One person that they love. And when you speak to someone you love, you don't speak the same way, you don't use the same words or the same tone of voice. Despite the suffering, this COVID-19 period strengthens our conviction, our vision, and our mission. And Group's mission is to make all our listeners sing and dance. We do that rather well, and we are happy about that. But that's not enough. Every morning, we wake up with one vision: to be a force of positive change for the world. With Nostalgie, radio #1 in the French-speaking part of Belgium. Energy, radio #1 among the young adults listeners. Cherry and Nostalgie Plus. We sent positive waves. For 10 years, we have placed human beings at the heart of our development, before profit. Of course, we have to be profitable, but never, never at the harm of human beings. And I have the belief that we are successful and profitable because we have this human vision. In 2021, we want to assess our performances even more in terms of positive impact on human beings, society, and the environment. For 7 years, we have been carbon neutral. We have reduced everything we could reduce. And what we are not able to reduce, we compensate. By planting trees in Brazil, by making wood ovens a lot less pollutant in Burkina Faso, by making water filters in Eritrea, so that water can be drinkable. For 6 years, we have reinvented our company with a new leadership style, which is more efficient, more humane, and more meaningful. Let's even say purposeful. This allows all our team members to develop their talents in the advantage of themselves and others. For 5 years, we have been implementing constructive journalism. Being the media, we have a huge responsibility in the way in which our listeners perceive the world. For a long time, we have been a sandbox for destructive information. Bad news arrive all the time. We have had enough of it. We have decided to transform our information. Now, we give off a more balanced image of society. We give hope. We send out a wind of optimism. We speak about problems, but also solutions. We speak about initiatives that make the world better. For us, this COVID-19 period has been additional proof that our actions are on the right path. 2021 will be another opportunity to support our local heroes, mutual aid communities, and local businesses. And I have a wish for 2021, that all radio stations in the world do the same. And I have a dream that all radio stations in the world commit to being the force of positive change. I have to believe that the media world, both public and private, must look beyond simple profitability. Our radios, public and private, must develop a moral dimension by becoming more orientated towards the creation of worlds for everyone in aid of the common good. I believe in the media that give hope and a more accurate vision of the world, highlighting all these incredible actions taking place. And I consider myself as one of these leaders to service rather than to power. And I want to serve not only shareholders, clients, team members, partners, listeners, but also the entire community, the planet, humanity, the future, life. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a new year of hope. Thank you. Take care of you.
So true, Mark, and thank you so much. We couldn't agree more that at a time like this, a time of such chaos and crisis, radio is needed now more than ever. And you're right in saying it is a magical tool and can definitely, absolutely be a force for positive change. So thank you very much, Mark, for that. It was a perfect way to end our Christmas lunch. Tone perfect. Well, almost ending the lunch because we have one more surprise for you. But thank you, Mark. And we want to say before we give you the little surprise that we want to thank all of our sponsors, all of our partners, all the people who participate with us joining our events and everyone who helps and keeps Radio Days Europe, Podcast Day and Radio Days Asia on air, online. And we hope next year we will see you in person. So, to end our Christmas party here, our lunch party, and we've had a blast. We've had a blast because of you, all the people who've sent in videos, all the people who participated. Thank you, gracias, thank you so much. We have been having a good time talking about radio, but now we want to end like every good office Christmas party ends, with a house band. Does every office have a house band? That's what it says here. So we have our own house band with a twist, because our house band has our own Stefan Muller. So guys, it's over to you, and until we talk again next time, from me, Colin Flynn, from all the Radio Days team, we want to wish you and yours a very happy Christmas.
And by the way, I play drums on this song. Bye.
You Christmas.